should I fight through pain? Or, how much pain is acceptable? When should I stop? It's probably the number one question that people ask when they start working with me for pain and injury rehab. Because depending on your situation, some amount of pain is probably acceptable during your rehab and during your training. It's just figuring out what makes sense for you based on your situation and the context of how the pain arose, right? I talked to someone on a consult a little while ago, and through me going through the consult process and asking questions, she started to piece together what her body might be trying to tell her. And this is really, really powerful. And this is the power of going deeper than the superficial questions that are typically asked at like a traditional medical appointment. Traditional medical appointments are not set up for somebody to spend 30 to 45 minutes asking you about the context of your symptoms. And that's unfortunate. But the reality of it is we trace back the steps that ultimately she started to figure out what was starting to create the spike in symptoms that she was having. And that's super powerful. Ultimately pain is an individual process, and it's cognitive, physical, and emotional. It's a human process. We think about pain, we feel it, and we get emotionally upset and frustrated by it. Managing all those things typically looks like asking ourselves good questions and then figuring out paths forward that help us make sense of the symptoms that we're experiencing. The level of pain that you accept depends upon your goals and what we think is going on with your body. Something like a tendonitis actually mandates and requires some amount of discomfort in the rehab process. The tendon literally needs to basically be deformed via stretch, and that's often uncomfortable in the meantime. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's super painful. It's just not super comfortable. You actually have to elicit some amount of feedback from your body to know that you're getting the tendon moving, and eventually things start to warm up and calm down. Other things like, say, a bone stress injury that, when you're running or playing a sport seems to not be improving, are things that we really want to listen to, right? It doesn't mean we go and we try to make pain or training completely pain-free, but we do need to really monitor our symptoms and make sense of them. Muscular soreness. Again, muscular soreness is somewhat protective. Do we want to be debilitatingly sore all the time? Depends on your goals. Is it pain? Not necessarily. Right? Helping people tease this stuff out is really what it's all about, because quite frankly, people don't know enough about pain. They don't know enough about how complex a lot of this stuff is and how our thinking and our behaviors ultimately shape our pain experience. So remember that it's all context dependent. It's all goals oriented, especially when we're talking about like musculoskeletal pain. I'm not talking about visceral pain that comes out of nowhere in your right lower quadrant or your left lower quadrant or near your heart. Those are things that are medical emergencies typically. Yes, they can be anxiety induced. As someone who has had panic attacks that I thought were, stroke-like symptoms, our mind is pretty powerful, but in general, you should go get those things checked out. Pain that, comes on slowly or doesn't seem to make sense, usually with the right questions and the right approach, we can make it make sense. So the amount of pain and discomfort that you accept in your training is dependent on you and your goals, and really teasing out all the variables that we can to help you make sense of what you're going through. That's all I got for today. Appreciate you being here. Peace.